Well, welcome everybody. I'm Dave Johnson, and I've got the pleasure to be with Sparks Johnson on a presentation. If you haven't met Sparks, you probably haven't met Gary Lindner either. The famous speaker. These guys are almost inseparable, but Sparks just told me that Gary is off to a ball game tonight, and so good for him. Sparks. Wow, you've been around. Let's see, masters in marketing at UC Berkeley. Had your own professional portrait studio, and looking at this picture, uh, you look like a beautiful photographer.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's gorgeous. Working in the industry of IT, internet marketing.
Well, they were two separate jobs. The first job was for a small telephone company. We merged three networks together, and I was in charge of that project.
Mhm.
And then two of us broke off, and we started our own firm for web design and internet marketing.
Wow. And now you're a Nikan wellness consultant, which I think is the ultimate job.
Well, I'm very happy, but I would say that I am a self-care evangelist.
Oh, I like that. Self-care evangelist.
If you ask me, that's what I'm going to say, because everybody goes, "What's self-care?"
Well, it's something that we should know about, taking charge of our own life. Imagine that. So anyway, Sparks, you're going to talk to us about one of the most fundamental things. I know there's a famous statement by Dr. William Dement. He's an MD, PhD, and he's the guy that really brought empirical science to sleep. And he had this thought. And was that also at Berkeley, where they had a sleep lab, and he got the idea to bring in an EEG machine and just kind of monitored what was going on during people's sleep, and found all kinds of things happening. And he coined the term rapid eye movement and a lot of other things. And over the many years, he made the statement that it's been empirically proven that sleep is the single greatest determining factor for longevity, more important than nutrition, exercise, or genetic disposition. But I guess we could argue that perhaps the most important determinant for long life is if you're breathing or not. And so that's pretty vital. So let's talk about air and its quality. So everything's
Air
been
matters
compromised anymore.
Okay.
And so Sparks, I'm turning it to you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dave. I can't tell you how much we appreciate all of your efforts in supporting this effort. And I want everybody to know that I take this, what I'm doing tonight, very seriously. I'm very humbled to even be in front and working with Dave. So let's go. I wanted to start a little bit different tonight. You'll notice that there's a picture, and basically that's of a meadow that I own. I'm blessed to own some land in the Mount Reba Bear Valley wilderness area in California. And that is what's called, that's a meadow. Now, I've been using this meadow as a private campground for almost 40 years. And this one specific day, but let me set that up, I had a real bad case of vertigo for years, 4 years ago, before I got involved in Nikan. And my wife was really concerned, and she said, "Please go to the doctor. I'm afraid that you're going to fall down and hurt yourself every time you stand up." So I went to the doctor, and you know what happened. He took 5 minutes with me and prescribed me with a lifelong prescription. And he says, "Don't worry, the side effects are small, but you will be sleepy all your life." And so I basically said no to that. And so I was very happy that I said no. And okay, so with that as a background, I am hiking in the Sierras, and I still have this condition. And on this one specific day, we have hiked the Sierras for a long time, but on this one specific day, I had a lot of problems. I needed help a lot. It turned out to be a very bad day for me, because I realized as I sat down right next to the scene that you see, as I sat down, I realized that my life was going to change and was probably not going to get a heck of a lot better unless something changed. And I didn't know of any options. But then I started to look around at this meadow, and this meadow, it was spring, and there was just a life abundant. There was a butterfly hatch. You can see how beautiful it was that day. And I've never seen the meadow. In all 40 years, I've never seen the meadow. So I went over and I snapped this picture. And I thought, well, it's not going to be the same. You may want to get the pictures while you can. But however, about 5 weeks later, I met a Nikken gal, and she was working with Dr. Gary Lindner. And I bought a pair of $70 pair of Meg Steps the very next day, and I put them on, had a rush, and I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? 4 hours later, just 4 hours later, you guys, I wanted to sew those puppies on my feet. I loved it so much. Okay, then the next time I saw this picture, I thought, well, you know, that was nice if you believe in a higher purpose or just coincidence, whatever you believe in. I thought that was really nice that. And here's the real crux of the story. Nikken gave me a second chance. Gave me a second chance to a much better physical life. Now, vertigo doesn't, it probably isn't as good as a lot of your stories, but trust me, I was getting destined to sit in a chair for a large part of my life. So Nikken, it helps get me out. And if we ever get a chance, I'll show you some of the pictures of the Sierras that I've taken since then. So I can hike the Sierras again, and I'm very, very happy about everything. So that's my little story. I told you that because Dave asked me last week, what's new and exciting? And I sat there and go, I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what's new and exciting. Anybody ask you that, even though if you think you're having a bad day, if anybody asks you that, most of you in this room have had a profound experience with Nikken products. And if you're anything like me, they have probably given you a new lease on your physical life. And so that's new and exciting, because every single day at this point is I'm seeing new things that, you know, I wouldn't have seen. I wouldn't have had the challenge. I wouldn't have had the joys that I've had. So, okay, now that I've said that, Dave, you can ask me that question anytime you want, because I'm loaded for bear at this point, sir.
All right.
Okay. Now, tonight, we're going to talk about self-care matters, but we're going to go into a specific thing about self-care. Now, what is self-care? Well, before we get into that, we want to make sure that people are healthy, not by choice, but not by chance, but by choice. We want you to choose to be healthy. Why? Because the odds of you being healthy with chance are not very good. And Gary and I just did a video, and we're going to show you those odds, and that's ready to go. So when he gets back and releases it, then we will be ready for that. But we want to let you know that if you're not walking towards health, if you're not taking an aware circumstance and choosing healthy operations, healthy options in your life, there's a good chance that you are not going to have health towards the end of your life. So let's go with an automatic assumption. I assume that this is just true for everybody. This is kind of like a universal wish and desire. Everybody in the world wants to live a full, happy life. They want to be happy. They want to meet their kids, maybe their grandkids. Virtually all spiritual literature in the world talks about grandkids and great-grandkids as a blessing. So, I mean, it's something we want. I think it's ingrained to it. But I have to ask you, is that what we see? Is that what we see out there? Because healthcare right now has really gotten down to the point of drug it to manage it. Okay, get prescriptions, cut it by surgery, and many times that's the best option, and eat better and exercise. Okay, those are the three biggies. I mean, pretty much after that, everything boils down to those three categories. And eat better and exercise is great. It works. I know people who have gotten away from diabetes type 2 because they've exercised. They've eaten better and they've exercised. But what happens? Why don't we see that on a society level? We don't see that on a society level, probably because it's change, and it's hard change, and we just don't do it. So we have to say it's not working. So what's missing in all of this? Okay. Well, what's missing is represented in that graphic with the red toxic guy, or the green, or the yellow toxic guy. And that what everybody else seems to be forgetting is the vast amount of toxics that we are consuming and exposed to. And so when I say, is that what we're seeing? And I would have to say emphatically no, because we're using 4.3 billion prescriptions yearly. And if we were a happy collective, just skipping through the marigolds and the sunset, happy, full life lifestyle, well, we wouldn't be using 4.3 prescriptions. Okay, so that's just a real quick synopsis of my view of what self-care is. Okay, so but tonight our topic is air. And I want to challenge most of the people on the call tonight. Oh, excuse me, I'm ahead of myself. So let's get back to self-care, okay? So we're gonna talk about air, and this is where I wanna challenge you. How long can you live without air? Dave, how long can you hold your breath?
Not as long as some people. I'm definitely not a free diver.
Okay, so but we can say minutes.
Yeah, minutes. Yeah,
minutes. Okay, so we die without air within minutes, right? How long does it take for us to die without water? Days. How long does it take us to die without sleep? Let's say, or food. Let's go to food first. Probably months. Okay, so the body very much wants air. It needs air to survive. When you fan a flame, what happens to the flame? It just blows up, doesn't it? And so that's what air does to our body. It is that vital to our energy source. Now, does anybody have any idea how many times you breathe in a day? If you breathe about every 7 or 8 seconds and you add up the amount of seconds, I believe the math works out that you're breathing about 28,000 times a day, which is a lot of breaths. So we shouldn't take the fact that we don't live in Utah where there's crystal clear air. We should realize in the fact that, like where I live, the sky is brown sometimes, and we need to understand that every time we breathe in, we are breathing in toxicity. So let's talk about the problem of air. Okay, on a global basis, air pollution is the 4th highest risk factor for death. Now, that's probably something you haven't heard before. That's kind of a big thing. But let's go to the second part of that statement. The second part of that statement says that it is by far the leading environmental risk factor for all disease. In other words, the amount of pollution we get from dirty air it's involved in virtually all types of disease that we may contract. Okay, so it's in there in the mix. It may not be the main thing, but it's in there in the mix. In other words, the toxins we get into our lungs, it's there. We're making the body deal with it. Now, you'll notice down at the bottom of the slide, the EPA has basically come out and said, well, the air inside your house is worse than the air outside your house. Okay, now this should not surprise us. Even if we live in LA, where brown air is the norm down there. Okay, even with that, we have to realize that air is merely a mixture of the air from the outside and the air that we have from all of the outgassing from the inside. So that is why we indicate that air inside your house is worse than the air outside your house. Let's keep on going. We spend 90% of our time indoors. And who spends most of the time indoors? That would be the young, the infirm, and the aged. Okay, so a lot of us spend most of our time indoors where the air is more toxic. The American College of Allergy says that 50% of all illness is aggravated by the pollution of indoor air. That's kind of a healthy stat. That basically again is reinforcing the stat or the concept that it helps us become sick. There's just no doubt about that. MSNBC reported in a California report what we had in our air inside the house. It included mold, copper, arsenic, lead. Now, none of these are good for you guys. None of those are even close to being good for you. And although this was a report of what's in California air, the difference about what's in your air may vary a little bit, but it's going to be very much the same. Okay, now we're almost to the end of the bad news. Lead. I don't know if you guys understand that lead is very bad for our brains, particularly a child's brain. As it is developing, it can stop development in certain parts of the brain. I'm reading a book right now called Poison for Profit, and it gets into that in much detail. And if you ever want to just cry your eyes out, go read that book, and that should help you sleep at night or something. But anyway, the American Lung Association now estimates that 83 to 86% of all buildings in the United States still have lead-based paint. Excuse me. EPA ranked the indoor air the fourth cancer risk among environmental problems. Okay, that doesn't really surprise us because we now know globally that's the fourth cause of death. So the fact that the California Air Resources Board came along and said it was the fourth in cancer risk among pollution problems, that should not surprise us. Now here's something, if you want to sit back and just kind of relax a little bit, because this one is a really big one. There are nationwide and local studies showing that when particulate matter or air pollution, remember air pollution is just a bunch of little physical side things floating around in the air. When that goes up, premature deaths go up. Now, any death is premature probably. And that's also from Dr. Lakin, who is very big in the Environmental Protection Agency. So when I first saw these stats, I was somewhat blown away. I had almost considered, well, I hadn't really considered air as that important. But if people say the number one thing, if people think the number one thing that people ought to start with, if you're asked, what should I start with? I won't argue with water, but anything after that, I could probably come up with a good case that the next thing people should probably get is the air. And I do note with a smile on my face that if they can get air and water together, the retail price is right around $650, which yes is a good sum of money, but no, it's not huge money. It's still very, very, very good. Okay, so what are some of the things that we get inside the house? Well, that's a real good question. And what we get inside the house can come from construction materials and furniture materials. You can see where the adhesive, finishes, and paint, and we will come to that paint in a later slide. Paint is huge. So furniture, if you want to kind of back away from the furniture, my wife has been insisting on pure wood, no glues in the wood. So it doesn't enter our house if it has any glues in the wood. If you've made a new house, your roof, on what's between your shingles and your rafters for your attic is probably particle board. Particle board is merely glued wood chips. And so it outgasses a ton of formaldehyde and all kinds of things in those glues. Carpeting, don't want to get in carpeting and your bedding. Go look what's inside beds. And if you see the terms proprietary material, that's basically saying that this particular ingredient is so toxic that we don't want you to be able to do it. And for some reason, they can get away with that. But bedding is absolutely huge. Here again with my wife, sorry to over personalize this, but we have an organic wool mattress. It's kind of an expensive deal, but comes out of LA. But to kind of help out the bedding industry, they have to put a lot of those chemicals in to meet fire retardation laws. So it's kind of it's one of those things where they pretty much got to do it. It would be nice if they could put something else in there that wasn't so toxic for us. The kitchen, notice the vapors.
If I could just say something there, Sparks. One of the big things is our magnetic mattress pad. It does have wool, so it is flame retardant without chemicals. But also, if you have an existing mattress, law does require, and it's always done by chemicals, but you could look at not only as a cocoon of magnetic energy and all that goodness, but it's also a vapor barrier from that bad mattress that you got. So that's a good thought. And just one other thought. You mentioned having a water filter and an air filter, and I think it was Rick Murphy that first said it, that if you don't have a filter, then you're the filter.
Yeah, your body's a filter, yes, most definitely. And that's part of the reason why we have so much chronic disease. But let's get back to the kitchen, if that's okay, Dave. Is there anything else you wanted to say? Nope, you're done. Okay. Food waste, see the vapors and smoke, that comes up big. Also, barbecue smoke. Well, we're going to get into that. Household solvents, insecticides, herbicides, cleaners, disinfectants. You know that you all use Clorox and ammonia, and those don't. You want to open up the windows. You don't really want to be breathing those vapors. Very bad for you, very, very bad. I laughed at this, and then because of the solvents and the insecticides, well, I have a very rural lifestyle out here, and I opened up a closet, and I found some wasp spray in there. So I said, whoops, I better take this outside. Your heating and air conditioning, mostly your heating. You have to watch the carbon monoxide. You have to watch the smoke that you get. Again, I keep coming back. The smoke, very bad for you. And in the bathroom, some of the aerosols and the chlorinated water. So those are some of the sources that you do have a certain amount of control of. So if you can make those go away, lessen those, then you're better off. Let's go. Did it turn? It did not turn. Okay. All right, here we go. IAQ that you see at the top is indoor air quality. And this is called sick building syndrome. These are some symptoms that you can get from having poor air quality in your house. And again, we mentioned you have to be very careful about carbon monoxide. It will make you sick, and then if you don't get away from it, it can have catastrophic effects on you. So that's why they talk about your heat. But let's look at those headaches, eye irritation, fatigue, dry mouth. How many of you know people who say they're tired all the time? Dizziness, nausea. I mean, let me just paint a little picture here for you. If you were to take that set of complaints, of symptoms to a doctor, what do you think that doctor would say? You think he'd say, oh, well, I think we better check the quality of air in your house? Or do you think that he would probably go and you'd walk out of there with a few prescriptions? What do you guys think? You can just mention it to yourself. So this kind of brings us to a concept that I want to make clear. An air filter and a water filter, a lot of Niken products, we are preventative by nature. That's why we say we are the easy card. You will start feeling better just by being around our products. So it's not a huge, large change. You just make this small investment and you start feeling better. And so if you have some of these things, what you may want to do, you may want to look at the quality of air in the house and see what can be done about that. Let's move on to some simple common sense steps to reduce indoor air pollution. Well, as we probably already mentioned, don't store chemicals, solvents, glues, pesticides inside your house. Not a good idea. Let's minimize carbon monoxide. We've been talking about with heating equipment, furnaces, firestone. How many of you saw fireplaces actually burn wood? California, that's becoming a thing of the past. But you want to watch the heat and the carbon monoxide that builds up. You want to buy organic furniture. Now, that's furniture that doesn't have any glues. We've already mentioned that. But now here's another pet peeve of mine, air fresheners. How many of you use air fresheners? And I can't see of you, so just say yes or no to yourself. Well, air fresheners, if I understand this correctly, are petrochemical waste material that they use toxic fragrances. And so you're releasing all of this bad stuff into the air of your house. And what I would tell you is don't mask the smell of your house. Get rid of the smell of your house. Open up your window. I mean, the air outside is probably better than the air inside. So open up your window and release it. Get an air machine. Get an air filter, and that will take out the smell. So air fresheners, it's, in my opinion, let's just say this, it's kind of a scam. Some of you probably want to throw spears at me, but that was just merely an opinion. Don't idle your car next to your house. This, you should think about that. That's carbon monoxide again. Also, if you store chemicals in a barn or a garage and you go out to those areas, if you smell anything, you might want to open up the door, the windows and stuff, so you're not smelling a lot of that stuff. Now, another common sense step to do is to get an air filter. Get something that actually cleans the air. You notice I put that in red. That seems like just one heck of a good idea to me. So let's talk about some of the basics about air cleaning devices. Now, I want you to know that, well, we don't need to get into that. Okay, excuse me. Portable units are usually the best. Normally because you can take them to hot spots, in a sense. In other words, if you pick up a unit, you can take it into the room of a sick child. If you're in the living room or the family room, you can take it in there and then take it in your bedroom if you want to. It helps cut down costs, so it should be easily portable so that you can do that. It's kind of a convenience factor, in hopes that if you're in many spots, and you may want one for the kids and one for the bedroom and one for your living area, if you're capable of doing that. They say high efficiency filtration. Now, what this is telling me, I've put the Ultra4Health in there. That was my idea. So that wasn't part of the article that was used for this. I'm here to tell you that the HEPA filter is not a healthy filter at this point, and that will raise some eyebrows. But I'll introduce some stats and some proof to you in the next one, because HEPA filters normally will stop at 0.3 microns, and that sounds pretty small, and it is. But the ULPA filter goes down to 0.12, so we're almost 3 times as small, and that's actually a huge deal, because the research is just advancing very quickly as to what really is in our air. Okay, do not use ozone generators. Ozone is good in our upper atmosphere because it protects us from radiation from the sun, but it is not good down on the ground, and we get ozone from car exhaust, and you do not want an air machine that produces ozone. It is not good for you. So if you do get an air filter and you get a headache after you turn it off, you take that back right away, because it's producing ozone. You want something.
Okay, can I say something on that, Sparks?
Sure.
You know, there's the story that miners would take a canary into the mine because canaries were small, and they were more susceptible to the dangerous gases that in a mine. And so if the canary died, they knew that they better get out, but that bought them some time. And the interesting thing is, if you have an ozone generator and you have a parakeet or canary, it's going to die.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Right there, yeah. I've had several people that they bought the air machine that sold the ozone before California had banned it. But they had their pet parakeet die. Was in the same room. So
are the ozone generators banned in all states, or is it just a select few?
I think it's still a few, and I believe they have their place. Like if you were a hotel owner and somebody smoked in one of your rooms, they're wonderful to just get rid of bad odors and things like that. But the same way, ozone is a very, very powerful free radical, and that's not really what we want to do all the time.
No.
Free radicals introduced. So yeah, good. Just a thought right there. We're bigger than parakeets, but
it's still the same. It's still a biological. It's still a bio. We're still
something to think about.
Yeah. Now, my website reviews all kinds of air filters, all kinds of water filters, and we compare them with Nikon products. And guess what? Nikon is always better so far. But one of the biggest complaints against air filters you can buy on a lot of sites like Amazon is the fact that they're very, very noisy. And the bigger they are, the noisier they are. So you want one that's quiet. And ours is quiet, thank heavens, and ours is very cost effective because it turns off when it's not needed and turns back on when it is needed. So that's a very, very, very advanced thing. I've only seen a few other ones with that feature. Now also you want one that's ease of operation and maintenance, and so that's the name of that. Okay, now here's some big guns. You may want to look at this. Let's go over this. First of all, this is a Nikon graphic. I did not make this up out of the air. This is the graphic on the left side of your screen is from Nikon. It is showing the difference between the ULPA, the 0.12 microns and the 0.3 microns, and it's giving you an idea of where the HEPA stops. But before we get into that, just a second, let's look at the EPA study. And let's see what this is. This is an EPA study that I found that basically the EPA went out and they granted some scientists to go look at what they call, let me see, the ultrafine particle hypothesis, okay? And this guy took all of these reports that the scientists gave to him, and he's saying the confirmation of the ultrafine particles, number one, it was confirmed that the hypothesis is true, will have significant consequences for public health and regulatory, and I think that's particle measurement standards, the PM standards. Now, basically what's going on is they're finding a whole new area of pollution that they didn't even know about, a whole new area of pollution that the HEPA filter has no idea about. Now, you notice underneath that, I put in 120 nanometers equals 0.12 microns. And that's because there even now is newer studies, I mean, just now coming out within this last month, that are saying, oh my God, we now have to get into the nanometers, okay? Because there's some really small stuff, and that's where the bad stuff is, okay? So let's look at this. So in other words, this is why I'm telling you that the HEPA filter is old school, and the ULPA filter is the best you can do, particularly at this price range right now. Okay, so let's look at this. Remember I mentioned paint. Well, look, pigments, paint. Definitely go into the ultrafine particles. You're also going to find resin and smoke. You're going to find smog in the ultrafine. I remember 2 years ago, Reuters picked up a article indicating that they were linking commute routes to autistic birth rates, and so this study kind of says, yeah, it's the ultrafine particles that are doing that. Tobacco smoke. If you have a smoker in your house, I would recommend that you ask that person to go smoke outside, which is what my wife did to me, and I quit smoking, and it was the second best thing. You see that oil smoke? Barbecue smoke can be somewhat equated to that. So basically, here's what's going on. Whole bunch of new stuff. The best protection you've got right now is the Nikon ULPA filter, and it's only $400, $399. Okay, so it's the best we can do right now. And I don't know if how manufacturers are going to go down into the nanometers. Nanometers is pretty small. I mean, 1 micron is 1,000 nanometers. So that we're getting down tiny, tiny, tiny here. So I thought I'd bring all of that in. But the good news, we got it. They don't. So what is it we have? Well, here is what I think is one of my best friends. Here's what I think is one of the major blessings that Nikon has given to us. It is the Kinko air system. It is the ULPA air filter, and it is one of the best things that I think that Nikon has given to us. I've said that before. So let's get into some of the features of it. Well, we get down to the fact that ULPA technology removes 99, and whenever I mention this to clients, I'll actually hold up my hands to make sure 99.999 to make sure I don't get that wrong, 0.5. So we take out virtually everything of anything. I don't care if it's ultra, nano, I don't care what it is, as long as it's filterable by our 1.2 microns, we got it. And there aren't too many people out there, aren't too many filters that can do that. It is a negative ion generator. I assume that most of you don't, but on the chance that we probably have some guests with us tonight. Whenever we go to areas of relaxation, whenever we go to renew ourselves, many times we'll go to oceans, places with water, forests, lakes, waterfalls, and many times you get out of the car at those circumstances when you go there, and you get out of the car and you just go, oh God, it's nice here. And that is where negative ions are made. Now, our air machine creates those negative ions. It creates the same particle that nature creates for us. So we've even noticed that if I leave, like in our office, we leave this on all day long, that people, when they come in to talk to us, and many of them, you can see a lot of them look around and they're sensing the fact that it's nice inside there, and they don't know why. And about 50% of the people say, boy, it's really nice in here. We have a low noise level. That's because we have automatic. It doesn't automatically go on to full blast and stay at full blast for a few hours. When it senses particles, it'll snap on, and it'll snap on to one of 3 speeds. It could be 1/3, 2/3, or full throttle. We are Energy Star qualified. The ECARF, I don't know what that thing is, but those 2 seals up there at the top, and the energy, those are certifications, and I believe that those are both allergy certifications. The filter pack is easy to clean, at least the first filter is, and you can get, Nikon has the replacement filter packs for us. It has a particle sensor. So, and it's lightweight. I would be the first to tell you that virtually any high school girl of any size can lift up and move it. That also means that older people can move this. That also means that even I can move it, okay? So there you go. That's one, it's one of the best things in the whole world. One more major thought, if you don't mind. And that is, if you have kids or grandkids or even great grandkids.
Hey, Sparks, can I say something on the last slide?
Sure. You want me to go back?
No, you're fine. But
okay.
Typically, if you're looking at a negative ion generator, they're made through the corona effect, which is high voltage through kind of a little pinpoint.
Okay.
And negative ions are created in abundance, but also ozone along with that, and so it's quite a thing to make an abundance of negative ions with no ozone. So that's really unique. And so that's a big deal there. I just wanted to mention that, and that's kind of almost vitamins of the air, negative ions.
Yes, it is, and it actually works. Now, I'm not going to tell you if you have teenagers that'll calm them down, but it might. You never know. But I mean, people notice it. I mean, people do notice it. What slide? Okay, we're on the right slide. Okay, one of the last thoughts is that if you have sick grandkids, kids in your house, don't be afraid to put this into that hot zone, because airborne particles that may transfer the disease to other people or may give it back to the child, they do have a physical size. If they have a physical size, we can filter them. So it can help. It can help the duration, the intensity, and the slow down the spreading to other people. So I wanted to leave that with you. Okay, so we have now basically come full circle. How are we doing on time, Dave?
I think you did marvelous.
Okay. Well, we have basically come full circle. Now, when I was going over this, I just figured I had to throw in a cute cat, because I know a lot of you are on Facebook and you all love cute cats. So I figured I had to put one in. Now, I put this one in because he seems to be praying. Now, I don't want to get into the vault of praying, but if you are not taking a step towards health, you are probably taking a step towards non-health. And that's just the same of looking up and hoping that everything's going to work out. So if anything that I've said has really struck you, you can become a customer of those who asked you here to come. It's free and no obligation. I signed a bunch of them up today, which just really da-da-da-da-da. But in any case, you can sign up. You have access to self-care information. You would have the ability to go into your own site, or your person can, your person who invited you can take care of that for you. And you can get in there and order your own products at any time. Yeah, as a customer on certain products, and there's a well-known list that you can have an auto ship, a discount 25, and that's really cool, particularly if you like a lot of the consumable products. And you also have first access to new stuff. So this is kind of like an ordering portal for you. Or you can just purchase them from an existing Nikon self-care specialist. So folks, I've hoped that I've given you some hope for air. It's not a very pleasant picture out there. But if you have these air machines, you are far better off than if you don't have those air machines. So at this point, I am pretty well done, I believe. Yes, that is our last slide. And I hope that this this actually means something to you now, because bad air, dirty air, particularly indoor air, can contribute to a lot of sickness that people have. So if you, I mean, I hear people say, why are my kids always sick? Well, to be honest with you, I would say, you know what? How much money are you spending on the doctor? Because one thing I would recommend to you is go get a $250 water filter, and go get a $400 air filter. And I would give you, I'll bet you a dinner that your kids start getting better all at once. Okay. So there you go. We're done. If we have time for questions, we can try and field some questions. I really appreciate your sticking around with me, and I hope that you learned something. I tried my best to bring as much light as I could out into the open. I don't know if that makes any sense, but anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sparks.